And off we go. Here we go. A special edition of Soccer to the Max as we break down and just discuss really the nil-nil draw between El Salvador and the USMNT national team in Cuzcatlan. Well, it's the first game. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's understandable that you're going to have, especially with a team this young, most of this team has no experience at all with World Cup qualifying. We knew before the game, before the match started, that Chris Belushi was not going to play at all. So that was a factor, but we knew that going in. I feel like Zach Steffen, sorry, that Matt Turner was the correct goalkeeper anyway. He's the one that's heavily on form out of the three. So that necessarily wasn't a huge loss, but at least for this game, anyway. But Eric, I mean, before let's look at this through the spectrum of what we do here at Soccer to the Max. For you, what is your first headline when you look at this game in general? What stands out to you?
My biggest headline from all this, at least we didn't lose. Starting off the last round of the 2014 cycle and the 2018 cycle, we started out with losses. Here we are with a draw. Now, granted, could we have won? Should we have won? Yes, but there's a lot going on to really work with. I mean, my two biggest takeaways are the number 9 still isn't fully settled, and we need to sharpen up in the final third because attacking at times it was okay, but for large stretches of the match it just seemed listless.
I think listless is a fantastic word on that end of just there was no connection. Obviously, again, like Pulisic is such a dynamic player. He's such an important figure in. He is important in not only perhaps sometimes getting things going as
Mm-hmm.
being that like galvanizing guy. He also kind of gets the rest of the players, especially in attack, kind of pushing forward, moving. You know, he's that guy, your talisman guy that when you need someone to make something happen, you know you can count on him. You know you can. He is
Of
that
course.
one player, especially in Concacaf, that people are going to fear. That you have to worry about what he does on the pitch, and so you remove him. And yes, the U.S. men's national team has plenty of other class players, players that play in big leagues, all throughout the spine of that squad, and that's important and that's great. And we saw that here, but we saw also how there was just a disconnect between a large part of this match. There was just I don't understand. I mean, I don't know that you picked the best front three particularly, but this is the problem you're going to have. I think when you have this 3 game cycle that you're going to have various times throughout this, you're not going to be able to always have your best players on the field all the time. Why? Because you're playing 3 games in a really short span. You got to
Yeah,
manage these players.
yeah, you've got 3 games and you're traveling back and forth in the span of a week, and I get that. And I know Berhalter really played it as such, but one thing I note, and I kind of mentioned this formationally, yeah, you have your core 4-3-3, but without Pulisic, you instead of having that number 10 pushing forward everything into attack, like you said, we now use more of a number 8 and having that with everything in defense. And that's great. But one thing with El Salvador, yeah, you had moments to where you could get some things in transition. But when you got closer to the box, El Salvador just dropped numbers deep, deep. And it was all a concept of, okay, work outside from the edge of the 18 and going in. And there was just no motivation to break down that
Yeah,
level of
there was
compactness.
there was no creativity at all. There was
None.
let's put a dink in here. Let's do something. Let's do something. Like almost everything again was set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It was you had that one chance by Acosta went off the bar. I mean, that was the closest thing they had. McKinney had that one that went over as well. But it's like there was nothing that makes you go, oh man, you. I mean, yes, there's missed chances. El Salvador had a few as well. Most of those offset pieces as well. A lot less than the U.S. They had one shot on goal. U.S. only had two. I mean, that's not really telling you a whole much. I mean, Matt Turner had that one save where he had to go down for, and then a couple that went over, but nothing that I think really you had that troubled him. I thought he did well, doing exactly what you asked him to do. I don't think he did anything that makes you go, oh, well, we don't need to start him in the next match against Canada. But I don't know if he's gonna try to rotate. I think honestly it's between Stefan and Matt Turner. If you really want to rotate one of these guys, honestly, I would leave Matt Turner in the all three games if you could, just to have that consistency back there. But defense, they were fine. And I didn't worry about them defensively. Not that El Salvador has this like wonderful attacking talent that I feel like are completely threatening, but we have seen them score goals. We saw Rivas do it twice in the span of 3 minutes against Qatar. We've seen them. They were very much up to it against Mexico as well. The goalkeeper was made some good saves here. Just like, but he did, it wasn't like standing on his head like he was against Mexico. There was nothing that made me, again, there was no like big shot, big moment that you go, oh my God, that was the one that got away. And that, I think that's the major problem is, and what you alluded to, the number 9 position was not staked in this game. I thought Josh Sargent looked okay at times. I don't know that Conrad de la Fuente works best as a part of a 3 there. Gio Reyna, I thought, was also looked pretty decent at times, bombing up that left side, and he did provide some passes into the box and everything. Tyler Adams was terrific in just being very tenacious, very motivated. He was very great and good in defense, but we didn't see those like killer balls going in, making El Salvador have to worry about what the heck's going on. That I think I saw a lot of what we saw in the Mexico game in the Gold Cup. A lot of we had the ball, we lose it. We had the ball. It's there, no consistency. It's like they make a couple of passes and then it's gone again. It's like, what happened to the credit to El Salvador, right? Like you said, they put people back when they needed to. Everything else, Hugo Perez is. I think that's the one thing I think people don't give Hugo Perez enough credit for what he's done with El Salvador, being a former U.S. international, being a terrific player himself, being able to come and take some of these U.S. international players, right, and bring them into Christian Rodon's brother, Alex Rodon, which I thought was one of the best players El Salvador had for the game. Zabaleta was good as well. He's another international that's brought over. I mean, so like looking at this, Eric, I mean, that's another headline for me is just you need to figure out your midfield and what you want to do with that. I feel like you understand Tyler Adams, right? That's Tyler Adams. That's his spot. If you want to play the double pivot with Kellen Acosta, perhaps that's something you do in the Canada game where you have some much stronger, much more talented players up front that you need to worry about. Maybe we'll see that having them both up there. McKinney is fine up front there, and if you want to put him on the top of a diamond or a kind of a free roaming role there, but like I don't know that Aronson, that was his best spot there. No. And like I would have thought you would have put him up front instead of having Conrad up there.
Yeah, and this was the thing. I mean, even with someone like Aronson, even if you were to go to like a flat three midfield, that would allow a little bit of that roaming and creativity at times instead of that triangle. That would have been just fine. You had too much of an overemphasis of really trying to have people there to play out from the back.
Yeah.
Our
Oh, that
best
was definitely a huge thing.
Oh
They were
yeah,
trying to
our
get,
best presence was when those few times we had those balls bombing forward, and especially after Canada's performance against Honduras tonight, that's something we're gonna need. We're gonna need it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either one of those squads are convincing, but we'll get into that later when we go around CONCACAF. As far as the rest of them, just to start out, I mean, Mexico got what you thought would happen with the U.S. because they've been doing that for a while. At least that was the theme of the Gold Cup of getting those late goals, and Mexico was the one that got it in the 89th minute to lead the Octagonal right now, barely pushing by Jamaica, who was missing some big players as well. Mexico as well, obviously missing some of their star players. So definitely Mexico should be happy about getting the 3 points. The only squad in the entire Octagonal to get the 3 points. Everybody else had a draw. Again, we'll go more into those games a little bit later, but staying focused on this one. So looking at, I mean, I mentioned I think some of them, but looking at, I guess, players that you feel like definitely like that you definitely feel like, okay, they definitely need to keep their spot in the team. Maybe, again, not everybody's going to start the same games because you got to rotate players because it's 3 games in 8 days. Well, who do you think you really feel like, okay, we definitely need to see more of this player, or maybe we don't need to see more of this player?
What I'm going to focus on, and this was a mention on the post show, and I want to get into it a little bit, Serginho Dest. Because if you're looking at the guys who big time European club players,
Right.
but not a lot of CONCACAF experience, not really the tips, the tricks, really what to expect. I thought he had a decent, really inauguration into CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, but I want to see him kind of, I guess, not rely so much on the tricks and leave himself vulnerable to taking a lot of hits and getting a lot of fouls, but at the same time, using that presence to kind of push forward and create transition, especially if you know it's a tense, tight game in those later minutes. I think if he did a little bit of what we see from him more from Barcelona, could have created 1 or 2 chances. What we would have done with them, question mark. But I would have loved to see just that little extra step.
Yeah, that's the thing that we see him a lot with Barcelona. Normally, we see him go forward. Sometimes he's more as a wing back than a defender. Barcelona play with usually a flat forward, so he'll go forward just like you see Jordi Alba and the other side go forward. You didn't see that much here. And again, like you said, he's relying more on the tricks. Then this is a thing that you got to understand which teams you can do that against.
Yes.
Right? When you're in El Salvador against El Salvador, that's probably not the best place to do it at. When you're at home against El Salvador, maybe at home against Canada.
Oh yeah.
I really don't want to see him try to do that against Honduras in San Pedro Sula because he's going to get smacked by Minor Figueroa or somebody. Like he's that it's been mentioned, like he's waiting for that moment where he's going to get knocked down for that kind of stuff. And like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to be creative, and you should, but it's like, just get the ball forward and go. Just go. Use that pace that you have.
Time and approach, keeping it simple.
And that's the thing, is I think that's what we need is, maybe Berhalter needs to think about, like, there wasn't this like big possession in this game. There wasn't this domination of the ball. There wasn't. It was more of. It was very 50-50. It was very an El Salvador squad that was never afraid of the U.S. at all. They grew into the game in the second half. They dominated a lot of that. It was a lot of.
I think the final possession was right around 50-50, 51-49,
yeah,
thereabouts.
Exactly, and it's just like. I mean, we both the U.S. got both the big yellow cards in this game. DeAndre Yedlin got one, and it's just like Acosta could have got one for the big elbow that he gave. I can't remember the player at this moment, but it's like
I think it was Larine, if I remember right.
It may have been Larine, but he also did a little bit of the John O'Shea from the Portugal game of you got hit in the arm. Why do you need to go for the face?
The dark arts of CONCACAF, which refs you can manipulate. I mean,
it's the dark arts of football in general. Of just we're gonna try to make this a bigger deal than it really needs to be. Just I'm sure that was not the sweetest of touches or anything for Larin, but don't need to make a total meal out of it.
No,
I will say the team looked a lot better once they brought in the substitutions. It was a bit more lively. You had Acosta come in. You had Anthony Robinson come in for versus Unidest. And I thought he like pushed them a bit more forward. And then P-Folk, when he comes in, they looked a lot better. He was holding the ball up more. He was, taking that chance. He played in McKinney on that one that they had the opportunity that led to the Acosta chance. I mean, that's the thing that I want to see. I want to see more of. That's the thing that you feel like you should see from a team that has these class players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, okay, even though it ended up in a board draw, show a little something. And you mentioned it perfectly with the P-Folk. All of a sudden he comes in, it's like, okay, you're going down the middle a bit more. You're crowding. You're getting more crisp passing.
They're pressing more.
Chances and pressing. Exactly. And it's like, okay, you're doing all of these things, forcing even better chances on corners. Would have been better for the whole 90 minutes, but at least you gave yourself a chance to come up with a winner.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that Berhalter keeps tinkering a bit more with this and necessarily doesn't just stick with, okay, this is my formation, we're going to make this work. Like, hopefully we see a little bit more of the tinkering. Like, I really would have loved to see them eventually go to like a 3 at the back and try to push a bit more forward to get like, hey, you got 10 minutes. You got 15 minutes, like, especially when you're going to bring on Leggett and Roldan, like, and you took out one of your defenders, like, I mean, get it going at that point and try to really, I mean, they did at times, but that's what I will give El Salvador a lot of credit. I felt like there was always this sense of they had the right person, the right spot
they did
at the correct time. And it wasn't like we got lucky. It was, they were well positioned, well organized. And I think definitely El Salvador is a team that I feel like you need to worry about when you're talking about they definitely could be a third or fourth running. They could give Canada a run for their money there in third, or definitely be making that push for the continental playoff place. And it's, it's
absolutely. Because, I mean, when you get to the point, and you would have mentioned with the positioning, even though, especially the last 10 minutes in particular, they were like, okay, we don't necessarily have to threaten. We're going to still make the U.S. think. And I noticed we started chasing the ball a bit more, it more, closing down a little bit too much. And it's like, okay, if you've got this against El Salvador, that's one thing. They weren't going to, although honestly, I think they should have tried to get themselves a miracle chance for a goal. You go against someone else doing that, you are quick to get burned.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like, that's the thing is what's important here is they didn't lose, as you said at the beginning. They got to draw away in a tough place to play. I mean, the El Salvador crowd was very much into this game. Every time they did something, it was a roar like you would, you'd be watching, a club game. They were absolutely into this, and I really love that environment of just feeling like you really had that team against you. It must have been so loud for them to try to talk to each other and communicate. Perhaps that's part of the reason, there was some lacking in the final third as well. Communication is difficult when that environment is so loud after you've played all these friendlies and everything with no crowds or anything during the pandemic, so, or you haven't played in such a long time period. So I think it's very important to look at that aspect of you now have a feeling of what it's like to go into enemy territory in a place where the crowd is there and they are into this at any moment of whatever El Salvador is doing. Anytime there was a foul or where they thought there was going to be a foul, it was this absolute, just going for it from the El Salvador crowd. I love that too. Just, I love that.
And lest we forget, it was like fireworks or all kinds of like a popping and stuff from the crowd. That whole first 10 minutes.
They were throwing stuff at as you would expect when they would do the corners. Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that they get this. So you now have a little bit more experience for this team. That's important too. You didn't lose. You stood firm. You never looked like you never let El Salvador really they grew into the game, yes, but I never at one moment felt like I needed to be afraid. I needed to be afraid about losing. Or, I mean, it helps when they really didn't have much going in the final third themselves either. There wasn't anything that really was dangerous for Matt Turner at all either on that front. So it was really, I think you mentioned it in the chat, at times it was very blah.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, from the aspect of, okay, in a week's time, we've got to head down to San Pedro Sula. Okay, this was a warm-up for that level of atmosphere. But at the same time, it's like, now you've got to be on your game. And it's like, hey, you started out with this draw, but now if you're in a position to where you've been around to this sort of a crowd, you know how it goes. If you've got a chance to clean up and go ahead and win, go get it. Get it.
Yeah, definitely. You need to do that. That's the killer instinct that you need to have. Whether it is to go and put two up front in that last 10 minutes or so, get a bit more pragmatic and just start. Let's go. Don't worry about, I got to have the pretty formation with the three players up front and all that stuff. Like, look, put your two best strikers up there and let's go. That's why I really hope if you want to look at something for me, I think that's a topic something we need to get into is we're done with this game. We could take what we want out of it. There was some disappointment in that you feel like you should have got 3 points, but you didn't lose. So that's a positive as well. Now you go into this Canada game at home in Nashville. You feel like you should. This is a formidable team in Canada now. This is not the old Canadas of the past that you feel like you should definitely be better than. Both teams have class players, but you're at home. You definitely need to win your home games. You need to look at what perhaps could be your best strike partnership or your best chance to score goals. And for me, I thought P-Folk looked the best out of the strikers that you put up there. I feel like you need to be a bit more just maybe even think about if you're not going to play the 2 up front, maybe play the 1 up front and just have. I think this is something that helps with Pulisic coming back in. Again, he puts that fear, that dynamism back into the team of now Canada, and they don't have the best defenders.
They really don't. And
to have to think about him, and then you pair him, whether it's with a P Folk or Ricardo Pepi. I really hope he gets a look at in that game. I think that's the best chance you have to play him. He's still young. You don't want to get him too nervous going to Honduras and all that. I feel like the Canada game is the best spot for him too.
Yeah, make it more friendly confines. He already knows like a little bit about it. Just kind of ease him into things. And even with the Pulisic, nothing wrong with even if you're going back to a 4-4-2. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because you have the more of a freedom, especially going out wide, if you're still going to rely on those crosses. And then say you've got a good lead, things that are in the bag, okay, you make a switch and you can finish out in a 4-1-4-1.
Yeah, you can play with that more when you're in the lead, obviously, but that I just want to see a little bit more up front, a little bit more like let's get creative and let's try to figure out something that may work. You know what you have kind of very well. So you kind of know, okay, if you're going to bring in John Anthony Brooks in the back or play him with Team Ream, or you're going to play him with Miles Robinson, and then, you kind of know whether you're going to play Anthony Robinson instead of Serginho Dest for one game, or I feel like DeAndre Yedlin is best in that right back role. But if you want to, play someone else there, you can certainly. I think it's more about what do you do. I really feel like take that chance with the double pivot of Kellen Acosta and Tyler Adams there. Have 2 guys, one that could move up forward more, right? If you need to be that glue in between of, okay, well, maybe you need to go back a little bit, have one go back a little bit more, have one go forward a little bit more, and then you have McKinney there, and go with whoever, whether it's Pulisic or and P Folk or Pulisic and Pepi. That's just to create that just at all times you have to worry about players, and whether you want to put Reyna up there, with someone, like I think you kind of know what the core of this team is. He's still trying to figure out what are the best pieces to put in places.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's one of those things to where, all right, you have the players, and it's about, as you just said, getting the pieces in the right place. But it's like, if you know what you're dealing with player-wise, shape your system around, as you say, that double pivot, even with the Pulisic up front, like that inverted, and if you're going to stick with a 4-3-3, if you're going to maybe switch to a 3 at the back, you could go a 3-4-1-2. That way you still have that little bit of width, but you can focus. What that means, pushing forward, you're getting numbers up much easier. It's a lot to figure out. Knowing Berhalter, I trust him to do better in figuring it out quickly, but in the end, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to mess with it too much, but like I said, I do hope he gives some players a chance, especially up front. Now that you saw some good things, but you didn't see anything, fluid, going, man, I really love this attack. You didn't see anything there. So try to move some of those pieces and bring some other folks in and give them a chance to see if they can show you something that you didn't see from Sargent, De La Fuente, McKinney, and that front line that you got there. Change it up a little bit, and let's see what we get with the Canada game, especially, again, trying to take advantage of the fact that Canada doesn't have these necessarily like stout defenders that maybe you can take advantage of more. They have a lot. They have Alphonso Davies you got to worry about, and they have a lot going in attack. But they're not this like stout defensive team. You can take advantage of that a little bit. So
Exactly. Set up to where instead of going for a 0-0, prepare
no,
for a
you
lot of
cannot
goals.
do that at home. You
No,
cannot go for that 0-0 at
prepare
home. No.
prepare for a lot of goals. See what you
Yeah.
can in getting that winner.
Yeah, exactly. And take advantage of getting that winner, like we saw in most of the Gold Cup. Now, there are other teams that are playing CONCACAF. Let's talk about those for a little bit here. Again, I mentioned Mexico got the late winner against Jamaica, but Jamaica did pull one back after Mexico had scored originally. And that game was close all throughout. So good to see Jamaica and Mexico, even though both were missing some players that you really want to see be playing for those squads. That was a rough game for both teams there. Costa Rica and Panama, I feel like you're talking about the two bottom teams of
Yeah.
it's weird to say. It's weird to say, right? For so long it's been Costa Rica, Panama. Those are two of the teams that you got to worry about when it comes to CONCACAF qualifying. They have not looked convincing for a while now.
No, we've seen a little bit of the downfall of Los Ticos when you got to the Final Four of the Nations League. So I am not terribly surprised. I mean, for their sake, I hope this is just one of those phases to where, you're out of that golden generation and you're rebuilding. But to see them potentially, now again, 1 out of 14, but as you said, the bottom feeders and at least not pushing for that intercontinental playoff spot,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, gonna be interesting when you get to play them because I have not been convinced by much of what I've seen of either team lately at all. Canada and Honduras played a tight one as well. 2 penalties.
Yeah.
That's the 2 goals for Canada and Honduras. So really, Jamaica and Mexico were the only 2 teams to score from open play in the entirety of CONCACAF round 1 because you had 2 0-0s and you had 2 penalty games between Canada and Honduras. Honduras getting that vital point going away to Canada to BMO Field and sneaking a point away from Canada, one that I'm sure Canada would like to have back because now, again, just like the U.S., you're in a position where even though you're going to the United States, you feel like that pressure's on to either get another draw or get those 3 points as well. So that's going to make that game on Sunday very much super interesting. So
Yeah, just like for everybody on like a Twitch and watching us live, yes, Robert and Randy, as you're saying,
see,
make
Randy's sitting there making comments about your wonderful camera now that you have.
well,
So,
I gotta thank
yeah.
you for that, hooking me up, making me look better.
Yeah, see, but that's the point. We want to I'll at least try to have this show look professional. So that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, of course, if you don't know, Randy and Robert have their own great show on Tuesdays that you can go listen to on the radio or watch on StreamYard or watch streaming. If you We'll have to give a link to Randy at least on his Twitter or whatnot, so you can
Facebook and YouTube are our
Yeah.
sports report, just like us. So no, we're not going to stay off your pitch. We'll just have to deal.
Yes, exactly. That's sometimes it's going to happen. You're going to have times where you go against each other on one night. You have to do the AEW and WWE battle of what's better at that point. But yeah, so I mean, for me right now, none of the teams definitely look way better than the others.
No,
at this point. I mean, maybe if Mexico gets to bring Jimenez and Chucky Lozano and Tecatito and all that in one squad, perhaps we're looking at much better odds for Mexico and being able to look like what we're used to seeing. But again, we're talking about CONCACAF is always a tough thing and that's even we saw this if you watch some of the post game, Kate Abdo tried to play that up of like, well, this is still El Salvador. The US should have came in and whooped them or whatever. It's like, you don't realize when you go down to El Salvador with that, again, like I mentioned, that crowd the way it is, that is a tough place to go and play. And with an experienced squad like what the U.S. brought out, it's not easy.
Yeah, and something like with this in San Salvador, even some of our best of the best, they've had it and they've struggled. That is just how it is. And you mentioned it perfectly with parity. We probably won't really know what's going on or how the table is going to be shaping up even at the end of this treble header. I mean, you know, Mexico could have another fluke result. Yes, with US and Canada and all that. It's like, yeah, home, away, you're not like having this huge gulf, US and Mexico, Costa Rica, and everybody else. It's just now you have a lot of these other countries catching up.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing that's going to be interesting when you go into these second round of games. What are we going to see anything different from any of these teams in those fixtures as far as CONCACAF goes? I mean, we talk about the U.S. Canada. I wish sometimes I would be able to have forethought. But anyway, so I mean, Jamaica, Panama. Should be interesting for Jamaica there. You saw them look sharp against Mexico. I wonder if that should be one where you're thinking that should be 3 points.
Easily.
El Salvador, Honduras, that's always a tough game. It's always you talk about getting those tackles and getting the challenges in.
That one is going to be nasty.
Yes.
Nasty.
Yeah, and all these games are on Sunday, by the way. So, and if you have Paramount Plus, you can actually watch all of them. So Panama, Jamaica is first at 6, then El Salvador, Honduras, and Costa Rica, Mexico. Costa Rica, Mexico before would have been another top class that you would have in years past. You would have said, "Oh man, that's the Ticos that are we've seen them go to World Cups and do decently," and then of course the perennial top dogs, Mexico. It's like different Costa Rica squad right now. So really hope that it's still a tight game, but I could definitely see Mexico. That could be the first one we could see a blowout win for Mexico on that front. And
and that's just Mexico essentially. It's going to help them get their feet under them. So it's good timing that with Costa Rica being so down as they are. But even then, while they did look a little underwhelming against Jamaica, you gotta worry, even if they can to bring back, Lozano and everyone else, like you mentioned. If it's a back-to-back underwhelming performance, then do you start questioning Mexico as well? How is Tata Martino really going to handle this? So it should be an easy win, but there's going to be question marks if it isn't an easy win.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's the thing. Mexico lately, it's been a lot of question marks. So far, but I think this helps them a lot in all the summer that they've had to deal with losing the championships and everything else. It's Mexico got the big win and they're leading CONCACAF qualifying right now. So we'll see how the tables turn on Sunday when we get to those games that go on, and the U.S. will know. Mexico will have to deal with it in the middle of that. We are going to do a Ted Lasso review at some point on this show. I'm pretty much up with it. I know they have the next show. The next show is already, if it's not on Apple Plus already, it's on Apple Plus in the morning. So, I'm ready. I've been enjoying that.
If I can get a chance to binge, I'll put it out there. Yes.
The great thing about Ted Lasso is like 30 minutes.
So
it's a 30-minute show. So. Yeah, it's a fun show to watch too. There's enough of they have enough of the soccer, enough of the comedy, and then there's some really great characters together. I think we're gonna all have fun. Maybe we can get Rachel to watch it too.
Maybe
and we can all have a big review on this one because there's some girl stuff in there too. It's a good show that has a lot of good stuff in there. I just really enjoy it because it makes me laugh a lot. So let's wrap it up here. US 0-0. You wanted to see more, but I think this is a good start. You didn't lose, like you said, and now you can move on to the Canada game. Let's see what happens. We'll have Rachel with us on Sunday for the review of US Canada. That game starts at 8 o'clock, should end about 10. So hopefully we'll be on here about 10:30 Eastern time. I know for Randy and Robert over there, it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what they're going to
do. They're out on, well, I can't say they're entirely on the best coast because they're just adjacent to it, but still early enough for them.
See, Randy's talking about Ted Lasso becoming one of his best, his favorite shows of all time. So we definitely
going on. It's odds-on favorite to win a lot of key awards coming up. So if you're into that sort of thing.
All right. So, well, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to our wonderful live viewers and hey, you know what, friends? That's why you have awesome friends like these guys that are watching us. Like they are your biggest cheerleaders and sometimes give you the best motivation. So, Robert, Randy, Harry, thank you all for watching live, and anybody else that may have tuned in during this. I mean, I don't really expect people to be watching at 1:30 in the morning Eastern time, but you can listen to us later. Or you can watch us later on YouTube as well. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on anywhere that there are podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast. We are on lastwordsoccer.com. We are on WTMnet.com. You can find us on Twitter. Eric is Squid Sportshead. I am at WTMSean. So and you can also go follow the wonderful Rachel Krieger at Rachel Krieger on Twitter. Of course, you can check out her stuff at The Equalizer and Last Word on Soccer as well. She is the wonderful writer of all of the three of us here. So until next time, make sure you check out Eric and Harry on the kickoff. Is it going to be Wednesdays for sure now? Or are y'all still moving that around?
Wednesdays for sure. This week though had a little bit of scheduling, so it should be up tomorrow. Yeah. But Wednesdays we're really locking in.
Okay, so Wednesdays, if you want to, hopefully at some point being able to watch live, and then you can also listen on the same place. So you go subscribe to that whole W2 network, you get the kickoff, you get Soccer the Max, you get video games to the max that I host as well, and you also get all the wonderful stuff, the entertainment stuff that the Mark Radlich team provides. As as we're getting closer to that Shang-Chi movie being available for everyone, and they're of course going to have that review for you. So until next time, until Sunday, when we're talking about US Canada, see you later, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.